Hey, welcome. It's Roland. We're here, and I wanted to have a very important discussion with you. It's not so much about you or me. It's about this court case that this guy had with the Manchester City Council. You've probably seen it on the news, but I wanted to really just share one important part of the story, and that is like, how does one being, like how does this guy handle 4 months of extreme pressure from the government, from the police, from the whole Manchester community, from the whole of the UK, and also from the whole of the world? Because whatever happens in Manchester affects the United Kingdom, whatever happens in the United Kingdom affects the whole of Europe, whatever happens in Europe affects Asia, America, Africa, Australia, the whole world, right? So it doesn't matter if you could have anybody, it could be anybody, and have any sort of case or anything. You're never dealing with one thing, because if you're dealing with just one being, one city, one country, you're dealing with the whole of the earth. And the moment you're dealing with the whole of the earth, you're dealing with the whole of this universal cosmic infinitum singularity. So in the past 4 months, this whole case, I was just having a chat with the barrister, with my lawyer or something. I don't know what they're called in the Crown level, but we were just chatting, and she was asking like, how are you handling the pressure and the stress and everything? And I just gave her this analogy. It was as if like the whole energy of this whole world, this whole universe, was all of a sudden channeled and focused into me. And it completely knocked me down, and on so many levels it broke me apart, and it was stressful, and I was having suicidal thoughts and everything. But at every stage, I just chose to really not judge anybody, regardless of the comments you guys made, regardless of what you guys said about me, regardless of the media calling this guy a darkened heart, which was something I kind of laughed about, but it was gradually, slowly, that energy was kind of eating me away. It was like chipping away at my heart. It's like cutting these thousands of little pieces, just that one comment, right? And then I haven't checked social media at all, like the comments and everything, but I've heard from other friends and people, they've told me they've made a lot of like nasty comments and everything, and I give the same answer to them, the same answer I gave to the barrister, to the lawyer. I said I never judged anybody for it. I never projected not even a drop of hatred towards anybody. Instead, I just acknowledged what they were saying. I said, that's cool. It looks like you're making a very emotional decision about this thing. You're making an emotional comment about it. Whatever you're going through, whether you're not awakened, whether you're still dreaming, whether you're still trapped within the matrix and its illusions and all of that, and you're still seeing me as something different from yourself and all of that. And I just did not judge them. I just expressed the gratitude, appreciation, love, and unity for them. And it took me 4 months to really just take all of that energy and slowly process it and really turn it into empowerment, enlightenment, ascension, and transcendence, knowledge and wisdom for myself, and really look at like very specifically in my life, because this whole thing has been like a mirror. It was revealing things about me, it was revealing things about the universe, it was revealing things about the spirituality, about religion, about culture, about community, about monuments. And behind me you can see there is the monument of who is that actually? I think it's Abraham Lincoln or something. And during the process I would come and sit in this garden and kind of look at this being and listen to the story of Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln, and how they have gone through so many challenges and so many problems and so many adversities. And it was a really eye-opening and transformative experience. But that is one version, right? That is how I chose to handle it. That's how I chose it to go. But there's other stories where people go through such experiences and they actually take their own life. They never recover from that. And that was the main thing I wanted to share in this video, is to show you a balanced perspective of what is actually happening with this whole case and everything. And at every stage I've just been on my own and fighting it, right? Not so much in a sense fighting to hurt other people, but fighting my own demons, my own negative thoughts, fighting all this dark chaos energy projected towards me, and I had to put a lot of like shielding around me. I had to put a lot of like systems and tools and techniques and modalities and all of that to protect my own energy. And throughout this whole process, I was watching this. Royal was watching this being contracting so much, and it was like as if like think of it like this: in the Sonic movie, if you have seen how Sonic like kind of like turns into a ball, right, into a goofball, and is like smashing this spaceship of the Robotnik, right, the Jim Carrey, and he's smashing the spaceship from all sides. That's how I felt, like kind of like being smashed and hit from energy multidimensionally, from the spirit realm, from the beings here on earth, from everybody around. But it was never from the victims of the Manchester Arena attack. I never felt any judgment or any hatred from their energy. It never happened. It was more so much about from the people who call themselves alive, but they're actually dead, and they were still sleeping. It was so much coming from them, and I just had to neutralize that and not judge about it, because this whole thing has been like a massive spiritual, we can call it a spiritual warfare, whatever. But whatever action happens in the physical realm, whether it's moving this finger or doing this or that, or somebody committing a suicide, or somebody doing like having a court case, or this protest happening there, you got to understand that at its absolute source cause effector, there's always the one source creator, the absolute source creator, the universe itself, that is in charge of it, all of it. Really, there's a lot of layers. There's at least 13 layers that happens before a physical action is manifested in this realm. So I understood throughout this whole process that this whole thing, even though on the surface, on the physical realm, the human aspect of this being was really getting upset, was crying, was wanted to exit the matrix, right, and end this life and all of that, and it was very serious about it. It was actually going to do it. But then the part of this guy, the royal, right, the part that's talking to right now, just observing and watching and observing and studying all these emotional feeling thought waves, all of these processes, all of these voices, these demons, this whatever you guys call it, right, all of it trying to do one thing, trying to take down this guy, trying to just take it down, trying to take down the emperor, right, trying to take down the king, trying to take down the queen, trying to take down the prince, trying to take the Mahavatar out, right, trying to damage the identity, trying to damage the purity with comments like darkened heart and shit like that, and trying to really hurt the quintessential immaculate purity being that this guy is. But even though it was happening, right, this is a cool thing, like Royal was just watching it happen at every stage, and that was a very fascinating experience. Just waiting for this car to pass. Recording, yeah, and that is an amazing thing to do, is like whatever you're going through, whatever experiences, whatever challenges, all you gotta do is just watch it. Just watch what happens, right? Like, be like that sun, right? You can see that sun there, the rising sun. Like when you look at the sun, what is it doing? Well, technically it is just watching, right? With its rays, with its infinite rays going in all direction, and it is seeing everything. And that is symbolic of like the spiritual eye, because with the spiritual eye or the pineal gland, what we are able to do is we're able to look at everything, just look at it, not trying to see what is there, not trying to like judge what is there, not trying to comment on it, not trying to comprehend it, not trying to understand it, but just watching it as it is. Because even though all these comments and all these things we were calling this guy and there was one that was calling this guy a vandal, right, which is like an antagonist or something, like a darkened heart, whatever. What is a vandal? It's like a criminal or something like that, an offender or some shit. And in that immediate moment, when I was reading the news on the website, right, I could see there was a lot of emotions, a lot of thought waves, a lot of feelings coming to the surface and being triggered and trying to like cause all this drama and chaos. But Royal was just watching it, not judging it, watching it as it is, because technically it's neither good, neither bad. It is just an energy being expressed. And energy is something within the being expressed. And you gotta understand, it never had anything to do with me. It never had anything to do with Royal. Every comment you read on social media, whether we call them haters or negative comments, whatever, or positive comments, it never has anything to do with me. It never has anything to do with Royal. All it is revealing is the person, how they're feeling inside of them, what is happening inside of them, what this experience is triggering inside of them. So when you look at all these comments about anybody, whether it's like, I was looking at like Johnny Depp, right? He had this court case and everything, and then we had like the XXXTentacion, the rapper, right? And everybody that has ever had such experiences, like this court case or whatever, or being defamed and all of that in the eye of the public, and you see it's like the media showing the story through one lens. That is not so much a harmonious, a balanced, a unified way. It has always like this agenda. They have this thing. They have their own game they want to play, right? It doesn't matter what experiences, what news is happening in the world. They take that, and then on top of it, they superimpose all their bullshit on top of it and trying to push their own agenda, which so far from just watching it, observing and studying it, there rarely seems to be any unity, the message of unity in it. The truth, and it's all to do with like wars and chasm and fighting and this religion, that group, that sect, or this religion is better than that, or that religion is better than that, or this country is better than that, or that's a developing country, or this one is a third world country, or this is a first world country. That is hierarchy. That is saying that this being or this country is better than this, when in reality we are just one being. How can we have different levels of worthiness, different levels of value, different levels of like just worthiness in general, if this whole thing is just one being expressing itself as infinite beings? How can that be? And why is that truth being suppressed? Why is that truth being pushed away and kind of like hammered from every angle, from every direction, and not shared on like the media, basically? And when Royal says the media, you know what the media means. The whole game of this media and the whole world, whether it's on social media, on the newspaper, on the TV, on the printed, on the billboards you see around you, on the marketings, on the messages, on the branding, anything, the whole of media, right? So why is that happening? Like, why has this thing that we call the media and all of that, why does it appear, or this seems to have this agenda, wait for my car's pass, agenda of trying to create chasm and disharmony within the collective consciousness of humanity? Why is that? And like I said before, or like Darrell said before, whatever we do here on an individual level affects our community. Whatever the community does, which is like the collective summation of every being living in that city, right? Like Manchester, for example, which is the city of light unity. And then which is like the capital of like the new capital of the UK technically, or the capital of the north basically. And then in the south we have like London, which is the city of destiny, and they have this made of the collective. It has its own consciousness, it has its own awareness, made of all the people living in London, and together every city in the UK makes up the collective awareness of this thing we call United Kingdom, which is an actual being, right? And then we have like Merlin and the magic of Merlin and the Stonehenge and all of that being left from the ancient civilization, symbolizing unity, right? The Stonehenge symbolizes unity, oneness, but it also has a lot of connotations and meanings. And then in Manchester we have like the Glade of light, the circle, which is like symbolically representing unity. And then we have like the Tower of Light in Dinsgate, which is just saying that, you know, showing the light, right? Tower of Light. So in Manchester we have two main fundamental monuments, like the Tower of Light and the Glade of Light, which is what this guy have come to comprehend and understand, that this city, Manchester, is the city of light unity, where we have unified light with itself. Because apparently in the world people are saying, oh, darkness and light are two different things. And that idea itself, that fucking paradigm, that consciousness, because it has been hammered and propagated and spliced and duplicated and fractalized so much from thousands of years, that it has actually created this separation, this chasm, this fracture within the collective consciousness of humanity and the universe and light itself, right? So we were able to, when I say we, when Ridwell says we, it's really just the whole of humanity, the collective itself, unifying that chasm into one circle, one unity, and symbolically there's a circle, right? There's a diamond there, but that thing is like kind of like that fracture that was caused, saying that is darkness, that is light, when in reality it's just one thing. The yin and yang is the same thing, but then there is the yung, the being that is just watching this whole cosmic melodramatic game and show happening on so many levels, on infinite levels, that on this planet, even though we say there is like about 8 billion humans, but what about the billions and trillions of animals and birds and fishes and insects and those little cuties, the things that are living under the ground, in the soil. So in this planet there is an infinite number of beings living and experiencing consciousness in multidimensionality in every aspect, in every dimension. So that is it. Like, this whole thing has been not so much about this guy, not so much about you, but about all of us. It was just an experience, an event, an accident. Well, again, there are no accidents in the universe. An incident, whatever you call it, that really triggered this whole consciousness of humanity, that triggered this whole, that triggered unity in all of us, that triggered the light aspect within all of us. Because you gotta understand that light, even though it's the eternal, infinite light, essence and all of that, is a thing inside darkness. And that does not mean the darkness around it is bad. All that it means, if you look at the manifested universe, it's color, it is light. This whole universe as a being is light. And everything around it, in the infinitum around it, is just darkness, in the sense that you can't see what is there, but it is there. It is like some call it dark matter, some call it different names, but it is the other aspect of light that is invisible, that is giving birth to the visible light, the colors and everything that you see around yourself. And when you close your eyes, this too, and you activate your spiritual eye, which is like just watching everything happen, right? That's one quality of it. And then you activate your cosmic eye, which is your heart, and then you together, those to the spiritual eye and the cosmic eye together makes up the astral eye, which is the whole of body, the whole of this temple that you have with its billions and trillions and zillions of cells, different kind of cells, right? That together, when you perceive your whole body as one eye, as a singular eye, Royal just calls it Royal Tolo Vision, or Tolo Vision, vision of light. That you're able to perceive your whole being as one being, as one eye, that has infinite little eyes, like this, that, every cell, every atom, every tone of your being an eye, that is looking at this whole creation with just one perspective, with the unity, right, with oneness. And the moment we perceive that, the moment we realize that, the moment we embody that, the moment we express that and live that energy, It doesn't matter what other people say about you. It doesn't matter the kind of comments they make about you. It doesn't matter what they call you. It doesn't matter what names they give you, what names they call you. You fundamentally understand that all you're doing is just expressing the pain, the suffering, the disharmony, the disunity, the misery, the pain, everything that is happening within them. They're just trying to express that out, but they're unknowingly doing that from maybe a state of not awareness, from a state of like lack of consciousness and awareness, and trying, not realizing that that being that they're trying to hurt or trying to criticize and all of that, which is cool, there's no judgment about that, is just them. There is only one of us here. When you look around yourself, all these humans and everything walking around, well, we just looked at the sun, right? It's like every being is like a ray of the sun, a ray of the sunshine. And when you expand that to the whole cosmic scale, this universe, this physical manifested universe, is just one ray of light. It's just one ray of light, this whole magnificent universe. And then there are other rays of light in other universes, other dimensions, like the self in the absolute center, the central sun, the universal cosmic sun, whatever you call it, the absolute source creator itself. And then there are like the spiritual universe or the spiritual cosmos, which is the spiritual realm, the heavens and all of that. And then there is the mental realm, the mind, the collective awareness and all of that. And then there's the emotional realm, which is to do with the heart and all of that. It's an infinite universe in itself. And then there is number 4, the physical universe, which is everything that you're able to see with these eyes. That is just one ray, one frequency in the eternal vibrationless frequency of the Absolute. And then there is the financial realm, which is money itself as a form of energy, as a tool, as a being, as a part of consciousness. And then we have like number 6, the architect dimensions, or the architect cosmos or realm, which is where the architects of reality, which is like the archangels, that's where they live, or this pattern, these geometric patterns, these shapes that is giving birth to this universe. Because below the surface, below the skin of the color, below the Maya time matrix, the color and all of that, the perception of manifested reality, we understand that it is just patterns, it is just things like this, shapes and geometries. That's why they call it sacred geometry, that is giving birth, that is manifesting and expressing itself as things like that. And then we have like number 7, the creation realm. Well, that is this whole universe as a being, as an actual being, having its own experience, having its own awakening, having its own empowerment, ascension, enlightenment, and transcendence experience. Because this universe is self-created, it is self-born, it is self-awoken, it awoken itself. And within this universe, every being that is awoken, that is having their enlightenment and all of that happening, it is this whole universe doing it through you, as you, with your cooperation. And then we have like number 8, the transcendence realm. That's like a personal thing for this guy, basically. You don't need to know anything about that. It's just where all lives. Number 8, the infinity, right? Transcendence. But that's really just a joke, and also a way for you to realize that we all have this transcendental ability to really be anything and anybody and we want, because with that realization you understand that you are the whole itself, expressed in one immaculate presentation. And then we have like number 9, the source dimension, or the place, the realm, the thing, the frequency, basically, where the source itself lives, or is, or the place, or the time, whatever you call it. Time doesn't really exist, but each realm, each dimension has its own eternal vibrational frequency. So we can tune into and embody and express and live with the frequency of the source creator, with the absolute source creator. And when we do that, you can then know and be able to tell and say, hey, you are the source itself, having an experience and just coming down here and just like chilling, right? And then number 10, we have like the archangels, like Metatron and things like that. That's where the realm of the angels and archangels that kind of like doing like the work that the source tells them to do. They're like the workers, right? The bees that go around and kind of guide people and do this and that. But it's also an archangel frequency, an eternal vibrationless frequency that we can embody and express and live, and realize that because this whole being is one thing, and because you are the whole itself expressed in one thing, you realize that the archangels are you. It's just another you. It's just another version of you. And then number 11, we have like the guardians. Well, that is like the aspect of source, the civilizations, the beings, the galaxies, the beings, basically, the civilizations, the groups, the councils that are in charge of protecting this whole universe, the creation and everything, and all the other dimensions and all of that. And that's why we have like the warriors, the warrior class, or just the warrior energy, basically. It's just an eternal vibrationless frequency that anybody can embody and express. And throughout this whole experience with the whole Manchester arena court case and all of that, I've had to really let my own dragon self out, my own guardian, my own lion, my own panther and wolf and whatever tiger nature out. Is just an energy, an attitude, and a frequency that you can embody. And that is when you truly become fearless, in a sense. You don't fear any criticism, you don't fear anything that the world throws at you, because you understand that you're a guardian, you're a guardian warrior. You protect yourself, like nobody can actually come and harm you. And whatever thing happens, whatever fights you get into, or somebody beats you, whatever, you gotta understand that that is a pre-agreed thing. Like nobody, it happens because you agreed to that thing with the other person before it happened. And by now, you should, if you're still watching this, you should understand that this whole Manchester Glade of Light, this whole thing was probably a pre-agreed or pre-arranged agreement that happened. It was also, if you look at it, if you just again use the positive and negative thing just to help you to understand that, from the perspective of the Ascended Masters in dimension number 12, the Ascended Master realms, well, the Ascended Masters go around and actually volunteer, and sometimes they're chosen for certain things that they cause this experiences, these events. They become the main person responsible for it, that triggers. And if you look at like Akhenaten back in like the ancient Egypt, well, he kind of started a new religion, in a sense. Like he was saying, hey, there's just one being. Like he was advocating for the truth, right? But they kind of scraped off his name and all of that, and Nefertiti and all of that from the hieroglyphs and the images and all of that. But look around. What Akhenaten started thousands of years ago was a revival of an ancient wisdom and ancient truth, that this whole thing is just one being. And in the modern times, if you look at Babaji, well, that is his message. Like, there's only one of us here, guys. This whole thing is just one being. Some call it Allah, some call it God, Godtron, some call it Yeshua, some call it Muhammad, some call it Buddha, some call it Babaji, some call it Al-Mahdi, and different names, and Osiris, and Amun-Ra, and Akhenaten, and different beings, different ascended masters coming down and actually volunteering and being the vessel, being the sacred human temple body vessel container through which certain things happen, certain events and everything. And with the case of the Manchester Glade of Light, well, this guy as an ascended master technically volunteered for all of that. One day it happened, and Royal kind of wishes it never happened, but because it happened, it always happened, and nobody could stop it. And today was like the fourth or fifth time Royal has appeared in the court, and we had to kind of adjourn that to the sometime later in June, because it's such an important case. It's such a something of value and importance to the whole of community, the whole of Manchester and the whole of the UK and the whole of the world and the universe basically, that we had to wait for the recorder, like the main judge in Manchester, to look at it, and later on in June to actually go through the whole process, because that's what the people want. That is what world wants. That is what the collective wants. That is what the source wants. So for this thing to be really looked at and see what is it showing about the collective, like what is it showing about humanity right now, what is it showing about consciousness, what is it showing about unity, what is it showing about light, what is it showing about truth, because fundamentally truth matters, because without truth we cannot have justice. If we don't have justice, we don't have freedom. If we don't have freedom, then we cannot make choices. If you cannot make decisions and choices, then that is slavery. That is like what Abraham Lincoln and all of that was talking about, and Martin Luther King and so many beings. But you gotta understand, there can be spiritual slavery, mental slavery, emotional slavery, physical slavery, which would happen, like the physical manifestation of it on earth. There can be like financial slavery, architect slavery, creation slavery, transcendent slavery, source slavery apparently, archangel slavery, guardian slavery, ascended master slavery and all of that. But then once we go another level of awareness, once we go, because this is all just a spiral, like we're just spiraling inwards, right? Once we go to number 013, which is like the transcendental L013, well, that is where like we all kind of exist as, not as beings, not as this, not as identities, not as characters, not as persons, not as ascended masters, not as gurus, not as mahavatars, not as sages, not as prophets, not as imams, not as prophetess, not as priests or priestess or hierophants, as nothing. Like in that realm, in that like the source itself, in the core, we all exist as one beingness, as one transcendental beingness, that some call it Allah, some call it God, throne, or Ra, or different names, right? That's sun itself, the central sun. And with that level of awareness at the core, we realize that this experiences, these beings, or that's what at least world realized, that everything that's been happening has just been happening because it's just happening. There is no reasons behind it. It's neither good, neither positive, neither negative, neither an awesome experience, neither this experience. But as this body was going through that, as this soul wave was going through the experience, like going through the motions of it, it was kind of like getting drowned and kind of like coming to the surface and breathing that sexy cutie prana energy, and then it was kind of like getting submerged into the emotions and going to the depths of it, into the under the ocean. But it was kind of like, again, using its awareness and just the consciousness and rising above the emotions, above the surface, and riding the boat. Like in ancient Egypt they have these boats, right? And like after that, when you become a singularity, when you become the transcendental beingness, or you realize that you are the absolute source creator itself, you realize that you are the whole itself, expressed in one immaculate presentation. That is when you access the field of the wreaths, or the hereafter, or the kingdom itself, which is again a frequency, an eternal vibrationless frequency at the absolute core of reality. That is the absolute truth reality. That is the only thing that exists. This truth, this unity, this oneness. And that is fundamentally, from the perspective of the absolute, what the Glade of Light in Manchester represents: unity, oneness, truth. Because truth is one thing. There's just one truth. But having, it kind of looks like there's infinite variations or infinite ways of looking at the same truth. And that's why kind of like we had to like adjourn the case to later on in June for the main judge in Manchester, to the Crown level, to look at it, because it's a very important case. So yeah, that is it. Just wanted to share that with you. There is this other video on this other YouTube channel, the practice one that Royal created back in the days, 2021, called Self-Transcendence Show with Royal Anwar. If you go in that, there is the link, there is the another detailed video, and if you watch theirs and watch that, you can see that these two beings are different. Through this whole experience, it used it as an experience, as a leverage point to really just empower, enlighten, ascend, and transcend itself. And that is the same as doing it for all, because each moment, each being that chooses to empower themselves, that chooses to enlighten themselves, that chooses to ascend themselves to higher, like Christ consciousness or infinitely intelligent cosmic consciousness or Krishna consciousness or source consciousness, fundamentally truth consciousness, fundamentally purity consciousness or purity awareness or oneness awareness, right? Then you realize that when you're doing that for yourself, you're doing that for all. And the more we get to people to like realize that about themselves and actually make the decision to do that for themselves, then the more the collective awareness of humanity uplifts. It realizes that this whole thing is one thing, is one unity. And that's when like everywhere is like permeated with joyful love, luminous light, and peaceful unity, and eternal harmony, and symbiotic balance, and spiritual awareness, and that basically ends all wars and fighting. And just looking around, like in 2022, like the whole Ukraine and Hong Kong and Afghanistan and so many other places having these wars and fightings and everything, it's kind of like disgusting. Even though it's not good, not bad and all that, but it's kind of disgusting really. This guy got disgusted at all of that and wanted to actually leave this whole matrix and this universe and kind of like just like fly out, like fly turbo, float out of it. It got too disgusting, like looking around and all these things is still happening for thousands of years, and all this is causing so much suffering to everybody, because when one being suffers, when one human suffers, when one animal suffers, when one tree suffers, when one atom suffers, when one cell suffers, when one throne suffers, everything else around it suffers. So when you're looking around and you're seeing this human being suffering, you gotta understand that that being is suffering inside of you. That frequency, that energy is suffering inside of you. And you can choose to do nothing about it, which is okay. Or you can choose to just be there for them. You don't have to try to help them. You don't have to try to like tell them to follow this religion or that religion. Just being there for them, not trying to judge them, not trying to do this or that, just being there, your presence itself next to them or around them, that is all that really fundamentally matters. Because if you're unified, if you're harmonized, if you understand unity and you're basically vibrating and expressing and embodying the truth, and you have purified yourself, then that purity, that energy naturally creates a sacred, safe space for them to awaken and realize that they are empowered, that they are enlightened, that they are ascended, that they are transcended infinitely. It's just a dream, it's just an illusion thinking that they are suffering. It's just helping them awaken. That's what Buddha fundamentally is, the awakened one, the one that realized, or Yahweh, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, Al-Mahdi, Imam Muhammad, Zaman Al-Mahdiya, coming down and having an incarnation and being called Buddha. Or in ancient Egypt, we call Ra, like, or the sun god, like the main god, Yeshua. In ancient Aryan India, Krishna. And this morning I just did like a long meditation, like 30 minutes, with the image of Krishna in front of me from the book God Talks with Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita, the modern commentary by Paramahansa Yogananda, the Self-Realization Fellowship teacher, right, the Eternal Guru, which is like a Mahavatar, like a very high ranking, even though there's no ranking. Technically, certain beings, because they have been here for so long, they have done so much. Technically, they are like a little bit like in the crown chakra, right? That like the dimension number 13, the transcendentals, right? So yeah, that is like the experience. Like when you're looking around, like this whole thing with this guy, the Manchester Glade of Light, and all of that is just a template, a model that reveals a lot of things about the collective consciousness, but we can use that as an experience, as something to learn from, to study, to observe, to watch and see what happened, why it happened, what were the intentions behind it, and how was that intention misinterpreted, misunderstood by the collective, by the media, or how did the media or other people or beings, whatever, influence the people in general to see this thing from a distorted perspective, and why does that happen, and how can we use that to as something to learn and see how we can use it to better or uplift the whole collective. That is the message behind this thing. And now you can watch this, and you can always, of course, there's going to be some news and all of that. And I came out of the Royal came out of the court, the Crown Court, and there was this guy on the other side with a camera, and intuitively I sensed that he was there to take photos. So I just was trying to cross the road, and I kind of like looked at him, and he was like shattering the camera, like taking loads of photos. And I just kind of like expressed gratitude and blessed it, and like cool, because they take the photos and they sell it to the media. That's kind of like their business model. That's their role. They're making a contribution, and you cannot judge that. You cannot judge anything, because the moment you judge something, that is the moment you're fracturing your own consciousness and creating a separation between that thing and you. And Royal doesn't do shit like that, because the truth cannot do that. Purity cannot do that. Unity cannot do that. And that is the main message with this thing. Manchester, the city of light, unity. Yeah, that's all. Enjoy. Have fun. If you're new here, of course, go ahead. Subscribe. It's free. Always free. And turn the bells. Ding, 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 boom, 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 bang. So you can get new videos, notification, all of that. And also in the comment below, like, you can write down your own, what you liked or didn't like, or what you enjoyed about this educative, entertaining, fun video lesson or wisdom sharing, basically just enhancing the field of meaning, having a dialogue, which is the harmoniously balanced flow of Shalom, complete, whole, peace, meaning expressed between beings, right? And all of that. That is a being. This tree is a being. The rays of the sun is a being. The picture of that being there, that is a being. Picture of that being there is a being. You get the point, right? And also, like it if you liked it, and if you didn't like it, that's cool. You can dislike it, no problem. Not at all. Just breathe. And enjoy the fantastic, amazing energy being channeled or kind of broadcasted to you from the central station. And also when you like the videos or commenting or you subscribing and all of that, or you're just watching the video, right? You're basically opening the channel and kind of giving this guy the permission, the energetic, the spiritual permission behind the scene, to actually be able to share these energies of unity, awareness, and consciousness, and purity, and all of that with you. If you don't do that, then it still is going to, its eternal vibrationless frequency is going to be in the ether, in the akasha, right? In the field, it is eternal, it's immutable, and you can tune into that anytime you want. That is why this whole thing is a collective collaboration, but an individual transformation, an individual choice. Be every single day. The more and more beings are making a choice, or soul waves, or the self is making a choice to awaken themselves, to awaken to unity, to awaken to oneness, to awaken to infinitely intelligent cosmic consciousness, awaken to pure Kriya awareness, awaken to transcendence, naked observational watching. which is a thing this guy invented, the washing thing, right? Just washing thing as it is, like transcendence, naked, where you're just like a child, like naked. There's no judgment. You're just making yourself, your energy, your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, your waves, your intentions naked and pure. And throughout this whole thing with the Manchester Glade of Light, right from the start, from the beginning, before it even happened, Royal was shared everything, completed every stage, the full truth. They have recordings of it, they have written it down, everything, had many interviews and all of that. And that is the most relieving thing, because you don't have to try to remember what you said, you don't have to try to write things down what you said in the interview. It just happens because you just express the full truth. And the thing is, truth has an eternal vibrationless frequency, and we can tell when somebody is lying or when somebody is telling the truth, because the energy, the frequency says all of it. This guy's just trying to be funny, right? So yeah, enjoy, have fun. Transcendence, naked, observational, washing. We talked about the naked part, right? And then observational, you're just observing something as it is and trying to like kind of study and understand and comprehend what is this thing, like the full truth, right? And then washing element, like that's the last part. Washing basically is just like when you look at an owl, right? Like a hawk, an owl basically. They're just like, they have these beautiful eyes. They're just watching things. They're just sitting on top of the trees, the owls. They just watch things like this. Because in this pose, in this thing, where the eye is slightly tilted towards the spiritual eye, even though Royal can see these things around, like look, this is from the what you see in the when the eye is tilted up. That is just like standard normal thing. But this is when the eye is like kind of like tilted upwards. In this state, which is mostly when you're meditating and like that, is when the true watching happens. You're just watching this whole show, this whole cosmic melodramatic game, this whole creation, this whole thing happening, and you don't try to influence it, you don't try to control nature, you don't try to control things. You're just being there, a participant, an observer, a watcher, but at the same time you realize that it is happening because you gave your full sacred divine permission. Whatever happens to you in your life, you got to understand that you behind the scenes have actually signed agreements and deals, not soul contracts, just agreements agreeing that, hey, we are going to have this experience, this event, this circumstance, this situation happen, and we are going to be, there's a full team doing it together, and we are all doing it for a higher purpose, which is fundamentally to awaken unity in all of us, awaken unity consciousness, awaken purity, awaken love, and all of that, awaken the horse inside of us. There, like the old Max had like Manchester, love, and all of that. So fundamentally, it's technically always love and unity and oneness and consciousness. Love is unity. Love is realizing your own quintessential purity and divinity, and then seeing that in everything and everyone around you. And unity is eternity. Royal will read the definition of love for you again. Love is unity. It is acknowledging and accepting your own divinity and quintessential purity, and then seeing that in everything and everybody around you, which is basically what unity and oneness is all about. Because even though you can love yourself, you can acknowledge and accept and realize that your divinity, that your purity, that your quintessential and immaculate and all of that, if you're not seeing that in everything and everybody around you, then you're still living in a chasm consciousness, in a state of separation. Because the moment you see other things, you're seeing everything around you as you, as one being. That is when it's a shalom love. It's a complete whole peace being. And until you don't reach that, until you don't become shalom, shit is going to happen to you all the time. Some of time the universe will do it just to awaken you. Sometimes you will be choosing it, co-creating with the universe for it to happen and awaken you. But most of the time it's you doing it in a co-creation, direction, cooperation with the universe, and realizing that you are the universe, you are the whole itself expressed in one immaculate presentation. So that is the full message with this video, and just wanted to share the experience and what's been happening, and kind of like share the fundamental principles and really things at its core, why it's happening, what it's for, and then you can look at the truth and make your own comprehension and understanding of it. So yeah, and you can in the comments write whatever your perception is and all of that. You can like the video if you want, you can subscribe. There's other channels, and like other, when I say channels, playlists, each is like a channel I show different things. Definitely recommend playlist number 8, the Transcendence, all about the transcendent singularity, self, and things like that. If you're interested in some more juicy context, full content and wisdom and all of that. Bye bye.